Before we start, the name is at the top right of the screen. The story begins as a maid asks her lady if she would like to try some desserts. The lady appears sad and tired as she responds she does not seem to have an appetite. She ponders that the real Lubiria probably would love sweet things, but she cannot handle overly sweet stuff such as cakes. She sighs as she revisits her situation once again. Her original name was Yerin. She was a regular office worker from South Korea. However, she worked for a bad company that would not even reimburse her taxi fare for overtime. She accumulated debts due to the frauds of the daycare center from the director who raised her, and her only hobby was buying discounted books from closing sales. She tried to save on electricity, and it was a bit of tough life, to say the least. As for that Yerin, the end came in cold and deep underwater. She witnessed a child sinking into a hole in the frozen river and did not have time to think, so she decided to just jump into the water. In the end, she did not want to die like this, but it was too late. A bright light poured into her eyelids. She wondered, what is this place? Is it heaven? She thought as she opened her eyes. The place that welcomed her was a world from that novel that she had bought and read countless times in the used bookstore. The novel whose title is Becoming the Emperor. This novel is not a romance, but a story about the growth of the male lead in his continental conquest. Caesar conquers all kingdoms and establishes an empire. Back in the present, she finds it such a typical spot. She thought it was all over, but despite thinking that he would become happy after conquering the continent, he, who became the emperor, was not happy. After the empire stabilized, Caesar ended his life in loneliness. In the end, he said it's the same no matter how much one suffers. Even thinking about it again makes her feel mind-boggling. She wonders if he was going to die like that. Why did they make him an emperor and give him such difficult trials? Thinking about it again, it's a novel that makes her so angry that tears well up. Still, she finds it fortunate that she transmigrated as Lubiria, and not the heroine, Lubiria Salkarshan, a character that the author inserted into the story just to balance out the protagonist, Armiria. Since she hardly appeared in the novel, I could not know the details of her life. All she knows is that she has some kind of power of the sun like the heroine. It took her a month to figure out what novel she is in. She decides to calm herself down and thinks in this psychopathic novel, making noticeable moves might catch the attention of the male lead. She tries to make sure she does not meddle nor overthrow the villain to the main lead. She knows Caesar might be pitiful, but she needs to be careful not to get involved. Above all, she is currently in recovery. A month ago, Lubiria was in a carriage accident and lost consciousness. It was not a direct hit, but she was so shocked that she fainted, and when she came to her senses, she was transmigrated into her body. Today is the day she meets the person who helped her during the carriage accident. The maid serves her tea as she questions if her lady is feeling better today. Lubiria responds yes, and thanks the maid for asking. She ponders that even though it was not their fault they moved her to the Duke's estate. She thinks she must have been going crazy, so she only just realized the maid called her. A man approaches her as he questions if she waited long. She is nervous as he mentions he wanted to come sooner, but he heard that her health continued to be poor. She responds that is not the case, and she has heard she owes him a great deal. She greets him and introduces herself as Lubiria Salkarshan. She nervously mentions it is nice to meet him. He stares at her for a moment, causing her to be confused. She notices his hair, which resembles flames, golden eyes that seem capable of killing with just a glance. He smirks before he mentions that Duke Salkarshan boasted about her charm every day, and indeed it was not all empty talk. She is stunned as he introduces himself as Caesar Eden. She ponders that the protagonist from the novel that made her sob. She has no idea why he is here. She is speechless as he calls out to her. She apologizes for being so stunned. She wonders what is going on. Was not there no scene of Lubiria meeting Caesar? She has no idea why they are here together. She wonders how far has the novel progressed now. She thinks if he has already become a king, should not she be hiding herself right away? She looks at his reaction and thinks it seems he is already the king, isn't he? She knows instead of doing crazy things to go back, like thinking of self-deleting or many other ways such as isolating herself. She should have at least known at what point in the story she is. She blames herself for not remembering the events of the stories clearly. She thinks maybe if she snaps back to her senses, somehow things will work out. She greets him calmly as she mentions she greets the bravest lion and the red sun, His Majesty. He seems stunned as she looks up to him slightly, wondering if this is enough to satisfy him. She mentions she did not expect the one who helped her be His Majesty. He begins to frown, which causes her to wonder what has happened. What does he want? And why has he started to frown all of a sudden? He asks her, is she feeling better now? She responds she can walk without any issues now. She ponders thanks to him, even though she feels okay now, but she doubts she would feel the same later. He responds that it is good and they should get straight to the point. He tells her that he came here to make a proposal. He states that he would like for the lady to be by his side only. She's startled as he continues, so he thought about the fastest and most convenient way that could keep her closer to him every time. She trembles as she tries to act all right and calm as she questions what it is that he wishes to tell her. He responds that the fastest way for her is to marry him, causing her to spit the tea on his face as she ponders what nonsense. The maids and the butler are shocked. They hurry and go to look for a towel to get rid of the water on His Majesty's face. His Majesty questions this cannot be her answer, right? The butler is speechless as he asks her lady what did she just do. He asks her why did she do it. She realizes that in the novel Caesar had a fear of water. She remembers this was clearly described in the novel. Caesar Eden looked flustered as water was poured onto his face. At the end of his gaze, Armiria stood holding a teacup. Her reddened cheeks showed her embarrassment. Her flushed face looked cute in some way. She realizes the situation is similar to when Caesar fell for the heroine. The butler sobs as he asks His Majesty to have mercy on her since she is still not fully mature. She wishes for him to not treat her like he did with the heroine back then. She refuses to become a heroine who sacrifices herself to break Caesar's curse and ends up dying in the end. She responds yes, this is her answer. He stares at her with a cold look as he questions what. She ponders as the only daughter of the Duke she won't be killed just like that. She wishes for him to just leave. He stays quiet for a moment before he apologizes for not informing the Duke in advance that he would be coming, causing a look of shock on Lubiria's face. He continues that he was curious about the daughter that the Duke cherishes enough to be called Scatty's princess. He mentions certainly the Duke has raised a lovely daughter as he smirks. She knows she is in trouble as he states he will visit again sometime. He steps away before he stops and calls out her name, Lubiria. He mentions she should be by his side as he gets on the carriage. He tells her he cannot afford to leave someone who knows his future. 1 month ago, His Majesty was sitting inside the carriage which is heading to his palace as he mentions that he ordered the detailed plans for the eastern part of the continent, but all he got was nonsense. The carriage suddenly stops, which causes him to ask Rancelot what happened. Rancelot responds that there is someone blocking their carriage. His Majesty questions who is it. Rancelot responds that he is not aware and will get down to check. He mentions it seems like someone has fainted. His Majesty grits as he ponders to have such a thing happen during a covert operation. He steps out of the carriage as he tells Rancelot to wait since it is something that the carriage owners should handle between themselves. A maid calls out to her lady who has fainted to please wake up. It's Lubiria who has fainted. The maid's attention turns towards His Majesty as she greets him as His Majesty, Red Son of Scatty. He asks the maid if they have collided with something. The maid responds that is not the case, it's just that their young lady is quite frail, so she has ended up losing consciousness. His Majesty asks her which family does she belong to, so they can address the issue. The maid mentions that they are from the Salkarshan family. His Majesty questions if this young lady is the daughter of the Duke Salkarshan. The maid mentions that is indeed correct. In society she is often referred to as the lovely princess of Scatty. A man had mentioned to His Majesty some time ago that if he were to see her he'd be breathless from her beauty because she is so gorgeous. His Majesty ponders, so she is that daughter that Duke Salkarshan was proud of. His Majesty informs the maid that he will assist and transfer her to their carriage. He thinks that he has heard the rumors, but by looking at her she really seems quite frail. She's so frail that she fainted in shock. He picks her up in his arms. He notices it does not seem like there are any injuries. He places his hand on her forehead before getting stunned. He suddenly begins to get a glimpse of his memories. Rancelot questioned where he will head to. Caesar thought deeply before opening his mouth. Considering their current forces, the east seems favorable. Rancelot responded he would make preparations immediately. A fortnight later, Caesar Eden's army was fully prepared to conquer the east. A woman mentioned that Caesar is so cool, and she will read the rest of the book tomorrow, and someone mentioned that they do not wish to die like that. Back in the present, His Majesty questions what just happened. His expression is filled with anxiety as he wonders why does he have these memories. He realizes this woman that he has never met seems to know about his past, and even knows his future. The maid is stunned to see him picking their lady. He tells the driver to guide him to the mansion and he will take her himself. It's nighttime as she is still unconscious. She has her head on his lap as he again places his hand on her forehead. A voice asks to save it, and it's cold. He wonders if this is some kind of ability as he finds it unbelievable. He wonders how does she know so much about him, and he wonders if she fell into the water. They reach Scatty Royal Palace as His Majesty wonders if meeting her was just a coincidence. Rancelot informs His Majesty that there does not seem to be a major issue with Lady Salkarshan's body. His Majesty asks him when was the last day they were supposed to set out for the east. Lancelot responds it's a fortnight from today. His Majesty thinks about it for a second before he commands Lancelot to cancel it, causing Lancelot to be surprised. Lancelot tells him if they do not set out that day they will have to wait another year for the eastern conquest. His Majesty responds that it is not necessary as they won't be going to the east. He makes it clear that no conquest will take place. Lancelot is speechless before he questions isn't it His Majesty's dream. His Majesty responds that is right, just until a little while ago it was his dream. His Majesty commands Lancelot, who is dumbfounded, that he should look into Lady Salkarshan. Lancelot nervously inquires why would His Majesty want to know about her. He responds that he has become a bit curious about the lady. He also commands Lancelot to find out if Lady Salkarshan has ever fallen into the water in the past. A clueless Lancelot responds he understands. His Majesty ponders that what he saw earlier was indeed Lady Salkarshan's memories. She's the protagonist of the novel becoming the novel. Despite her efforts to defy fate, he wonders if she is just running along with what is written in the book. He knows he cannot be satisfied with just this. He ponders that he will not live according to his destiny. A week after that chaos at Duke Salkarshan's mansion, her maid questions if she has heard the rumors. There is a commotion in high society with rumors that His Majesty Caesar will marry Lady Salkarshan. The maid continues now men won't even come near her. She nervously smiles as she responds that is right. She mentions that they say her path to marriage is completely confirmed. She thanks Merlita for letting her know. Merlita states that even though her lady is marrying the country's most eligible bachelor, what's there to worry about? She ponders if she marries him she might end up dead. She wonders why does she have to go through this. She realizes since that day he has been showering her with gifts and flowers. Merlita tells her to get up soon as His Majesty will arrive here soon. Her lady becomes stunned as she questions is it already that time. The door opens as she wonders is he already here. She pretends to sleep as he mentions that he must admit she is quite a bold lady to ignore him like this. He can acknowledge her audacity in ignoring him. He questions for how long she can keep this up. She still ignores him as he mentions he has waited a week. He asks if her decision has still not changed. He leans in towards her as he gets closer to her face. He observes her as it does not seem to him that she is sleeping, so he mentions that she does not look like she is sleeping. She becomes shocked as she suddenly gets up questioning what is he doing right now. He mentions that he did not realize she was pretending to be asleep. She is furious as she questions why he was so close to her. She blushes as she mentions she did not think he would know and says that is not important. He questions as she thought about how she can stay by his side. She gently gets up as she mentions that her answer remains the same, as he who is healthier than her can find a better match. He questions how does she knows that? How can she be sure that there is a better match? She hesitates as His Majesty mentions that if she doesn't like being a queen, she should just stay by his side. He might be the best partner for her. She ponders that he cannot make that face. She questions even if that is the case how can His Majesty be so sure? She decides to turn it around and reject it as soon as possible. She asks for a little more time. He looks at her with a disappointed look as she notices it. She thinks even his frowning face is handsome. She thinks if this continues she will end up falling in love with Caesar. Surely she will end up sacrificing herself in his place. She knows to survive she must cut off the roots of love as she glances furiously at him. He asks her what is the reason for rejecting her. She places her hand on her chest before yelling it is because His Majesty is not his taste. She mentions that she prefers someone like the captain of the palace knights, a beastly man. He is stunned as he questions what. He questions with a blank expression, so is he not up to her taste? She lights up as she mentions he is right. She continues moreover to call someone a beast. His Majesty is too refined. He states that he heard she is weak and has trouble going outside. He asks her when did she see the captain of the knights, causing her to flinch and unable to respond. He mentions that he has heard all her reasons but still has no intention of giving up on her. He turns around as she calls out to him, but he interrupts and tells her that she must be in good health the next time they meet. He tells her this is not a joke as he leaves. She stands still unable to process before she begins to tear up as she wonders why is this happening to her. She wishes to not meddle in his business but she is keep being dragged into his life. The new day begins as it seems a knight is having a swordsmanship match with Lubiria. She is known as the best swords master in Skadi. The attendants are all present as they mention this knight has been holding out against the lady for quite a while. As the knight trembles in fear before he falls to the ground, they mentions it does not matter anymore as they call for the next one though no one is courageous enough to raise their hand. The Karshan family has been the powerful sword guarding the royal family for generations. Lubiria inherited the strong bloodline of the Karshan family throughout the generations. A separate middle name Saul was given in the temple. In other words, she is a character created to balance the protagonist. She realizes although training is manageable, her stamina is lacking. This level of ability was expected of her. She joyfully asks the knights who are hanging on their lives that why are all of them so weak? Is it that they skip breakfasts? One knight responds that their bodies won't hold up before she interrupts and mentions but still. The knight complains that they are just ordinary people, but Lubiria, with a cold expression, questions does he mean she is a monster then? He flinches as he tries to defend himself as he mentions that her lady may have inherited Karshan blood but they are not like that. She questions what is the difference. The knight responds it's different. The knight sobs as he tells her to look around and questions isn't this too much. She looks around as she mentions come on, how strong does he think she is? The knights are barely holding on to their lives as she wonders did she go too far. They are upside down on the ground as they feel like living corpses. She ponders she just wanted to train with the sword but she ended up using her supernatural strength without realizing it. She knows she failed to protect her power, the Karshan blood, and the supernatural strength born from the power of the sun. She wonders why does not Lubiria have healing problems like the protagonist. She wonders isn't it too random for the author to set up characters like this. Because of this, she thinks about how much Lubiria must have suffered. After possessing Lubiria, she found out the truth. In the past, some kid bullies another kid as Lubiria stares at them. They ask another kid since when were the dolls his and does he have any proof. In her childhood, Lubiria could not control her supernatural strength well. Lubiria intervenes as she asks the bullies to give the doll back. The bully asks her why is it her concern, and tells her to go her own way. Even though Lubiria's intention was to only scold the annoying child a little, the child got seriously injured. After hurting them, she thought about what she was supposed to do. She did not mean to hurt them so bad. She was becoming scared of herself. Lubiria, deeply shocked, hid her powers and refused to meet people by not leaving the mansion. So in society she is known as a delicate woman. Lubiria's supernatural strength remains completely unknown. However, Caesar seems to be reaching out for some reason. Back in the present, she wonders what she should do. Before her attention turns to female Knights members, Merlita joins in as she asks her lady if she is here. She mentions that she has been looking for her lady as she was wondering when she could have dinner. Lubiria grabs her tightly as she mentions that it's perfect timing. Lubiria asks the maid if she could invite His Majesty for lunch right now. The maid agrees as well as questions what's going on. She decides to meet with him and talk. After a while she bows and greets His Majesty. He mentions that her calling him first caught him off guard. He mentions that he cancelled all his previous engagements and came here. He also tells her that she seems to be in good health today. She responds it is an honor that he thinks of her so much. She ponders after eating so many sweets. Does he put honey on his words too? She decides to not dwell on that. He questions if her lady's decision is still the same. She responds, of course, His Majesty, it has only been a day since they last talked. She continues, therefore, she has thought of a compromise in case His Majesty does not give up on her. He questions what does she mean before she replies that she proposes to become His Majesty's knight. His expression suddenly becomes sad as he asks her if she's pulling a prank on him right now. She responds she would not dare, and mentions that she will explain the reasons. She ponders that his gaze is chilling. He asks her isn't she physically weak? Will people accept her becoming his knight? She tells him, however, she is from the powerful house of Karshan. She questions would it be convincing for him to become a knight. She continues, and if His Majesty personally appoints her, there will be no one in Skadi who would dare to oppose her. He is thinking for a while as she wonders, does she sound convincing? Becoming a knight may involve going out to conquer wars, so it could be a bit risky. But even if she has to be cautious about the family's influence, she would not be placed on the front lines. Above all, if he meets Armeria in the east, he will lose interest in her, and then she can quit being his knight. He asks her why should he do that. She cheerfully responds that they spend a lot of time together. As a knight by His Majesty's side, perhaps over time, she might open her heart. He questions if he is not able to win her heart. Her expression becomes cold as she ponders this straightforward attitude of his before she decides to act pitiful. She tries to act emotional as she mentions she is weak, not an ideal marriage partner. He responds, but about being a knight, if that is what the lady wants, so she can do it. She is startled as she cheers up and questions if that's true. He responds, but there are conditions. She decides to hear them out as he mentions in return the lady must get engaged to him. As he leans towards her, she suddenly blushes as she questions. What does he mean? If she becomes a knight, the request to be at his side becomes a given, right? He responds that was not a request, it was his wish. She finds him unreasonable. He asks her that as an emperor, does he need a specific reason to want her by his side? She tells him that is not the case before he interrupts as he suddenly gets too close to her and mentions that also the Emperor of Skadi is him. She deep down complains about him being too close. He asks her if she understands what he means. He questions when they should do their engagement ceremony. She is dumbfounded as she questions, how about after 3 months? He looks at her with a cold expression causing her to panic as she asks how about after a month? He turns around as he tells her to let's make it a week. She is shocked as she tells him they need to prepare the engagement ceremony, and she also needs time to prepare herself. She asks him why is he rushing this. He tells her to not worry as his servants are quite competent. He assures her that preparations won't take long. She ponders the emperor of a nation using the power of authority to press down someone. She wonders, how could this happen? She knows it is frustrating, but no more excuses come to mind. Not that it is like this if she just hit the back of his head and erase his memory. Before he turns around and mentions that such an audacious display is quite cute, she panics as she wonders, did he see that? He laughs as he mentions it is the first time she has treated him like this. She blushes as she ponders he is trying to intimidate her with his face. She wonders why he is starting to like her more and more. She thinks maybe there is a different way. She looks to her side and finds a piece of a cake. She grabs a spoon as she mentions this cake is really delicious. She continues that it is one of her favorites. She tells him to not just stand there talking about engagement and stuff, but try some cake. She tells him that she will feed him, so he should open his mouth. She takes a bite as she tells him if he does not eat it, she will eat it all. He continues to stare at her with a blank expression. She looks at him as she wonders how is that. It turns out in the novel Caesar did not like sweet-talking girls. She wonders if his affection dropped significantly. He suddenly leans in towards her as he grabs her arm. He mentions if she likes the cake that much, she can eat it all. He gets real close to her as he tells her watching her eat. He can see why people call her adorable. He mentions just looking at her makes him full. She wonders what is happening right now. She is aware she cannot succumb to this guy. She eats the cake as she mentions she is being adorable again. Deep down, she wishes to stop eating the cake because it is too sweet. He extends his hand as he mentions it is a relief that the princess likes sweet things, because he likes sweet things too. He cleans her face as he mentions he hopes their tea time together in the future will be even more enjoyable. He wishes her a healthy engagement ceremony. After a while she's sitting there, hopeless. All of a sudden, she feels nauseous and runs to throw up. In her room, Merlita questions if she's okay. Merlita asks her what did she eat. She wonders why His Majesty keeps paying attention to her. She knows if he chooses her as his heroine, she will die. She hugs Merlita as she sobs, causing Merlita to be confused. She mentions that she really does not want to die. After a while, as she is taking a bath, Merlita tells her to immerse her body in warm water. She mentions that she will ask the chef to prepare something easily digestible for her meal. Lubiria thanks her as Merlita responds she should not mention it. Merlita tells her if she's going through a tough time, she should share it with her as she is always on her side. After a while, she wonders why is Caesar not leaving for the east. She wishes she could at least remember a lot of the contents of the book. What she remembers right now is that during the last war between the Western Kingdom and the Curse, Caesar's heart froze. At that time, the heroine, willing to sacrifice herself for her beloved, poured all the power of her son to melt his heart. Since Lubiria also has the power of the sun, maybe she can also do it. Before she thinks no, she cannot do it, and wonders why she should die twice. She knows she should never have a dreadful sensation ever again. She thinks of His Majesty before she slaps herself, asking herself to get a hold of her. She makes it clear that she should not go the heroine route and the sacrifice ending. She knows it is not happening. In His Majesty's palace, he asks Lancelot that he has ever met Lady Cartian, the Duke's daughter. He responds he saw her faint from a distance during the carriage accident, but they have not met separately. His Majesty questions, but then how does she know about him? Lancelot asks does she know him? He is astonished as he questions if His Majesty is being rejected by the princess. He continues that he never thought there would be a lady who would reject His Majesty. His Majesty responds she said she rejected him because he is not her taste and marriage is out of the question. He continues as he mentions she said that Lancelot is her type. He is shocked as he questions him. He mentions maybe she could not find the words to reject His Majesty, so she said that. His Majesty responds she is a strange woman. She does not go out and avoid social circles, yet she calls someone she has never met a beastly man. Caesar looks at Lancelot with suspicion as he panics and responds he truly, absolutely has never encountered her. He continues that he heard the lady is frail, and asks if His Majesty really saw her. How did she appear to His Majesty? His Majesty responds he does not think she is like that. Lancelot ponders usually if His Majesty does not like something, he cuts it right away, and it is amazing that he has been clinging to the princess for over a month. It is unlikely that he is generally smitten with her. He wonders if His Majesty is trying to strengthen his bond with Duke Karshan. Lancelot knows that Duke Karshan is loyal even without such efforts. Caesar calls out to Lancelot as he responds. He mentions that Lancelot should avoid coming to the engagement ceremony. He is shocked as he responds, but he is His Excellency's personal guard. His Majesty tells him it is just one day. Lancelot feels betrayed as he questions if His Majesty is behaving this way because of what Lady Karshan said about him being her type. Caesar straightforwardly agrees. His Majesty tells him to not come if he knows. He also mentions that on the day of the engagement ceremony, he should instruct the royal palace chef to prepare the sweetest dessert possible. Lancelot responds that he will make sure it is prepared that way, even though he knows he will not attend the engagement ceremony himself. Caesar is alone as he thinks about Lubiria eating desserts earlier. He ponders she likes sweet things, yet she is a woman who lies every time she opens her mouth. He knows he approached her because he thought she had the ability to see the future, but her actions are increasingly amusing. He looks forward to the engagement ceremony. A week later, Merlita mentions that it is really regrettable to proceed this quickly without time to prepare. She continues that the local nobility could not even be invited. Lubiria responds there were a lot of people though, and if they invite more, the garden will burst. Merlita mentions that she should not underestimate the size of the Duke's garden, and on a day like this, she wants to make the lady more beautiful than anyone else, because it is the young lady's engagement day, after all. Merlita becomes teary-eyed as she mentions sending her off like this before Lubiria asks her why is she like this. It is just an engagement. She ponders, even if they get married, she will not leave the Duke's estate, so there's no need to worry about that. They decide to go out as someone tells her she is late. She knows this voice is similar as it is His Majesty. He asks her if the preparation is finished. She blushes as she ponders, oh my god, she is shocked by his beauty. He mentions that this is really going to catch the attention of the princess. He continues, now that he thinks about it, her words and actions do not match. He questions, did she not say he was not her type? She panics as she mentions she did say he was not her type. She slightly covers her eyes as she tells him she was not looking at him like that. She wonders why is his face so handsome. He questions if he is close to the beastly man she mentioned. She asks him if he is teasing her. He responds that he is asking sincerely. She tells him, not a beast, but maybe just a little beast. He questions, just a little beast. She passes by him as she tells him she means it seems like he might become a beastly man soon. She continues to blush hard as she wonders why does he keep bringing it up. She thinks it is fine if her likability goes down because of the teasing, but it does not seem like she has been caught. She even at this moment hopes that he will cancel this engagement. He approaches her from behind as he questions if she is feeling nervous. She responds, of course. It is her first engagement. He tells her it is his first engagement, too. She mentions she thought he must have had dozens with how nonchalant he is. He laughs as he tells her it is just a matter of smiling and going around. So why is she so nervous? She tells him that she is not used to being in the spotlight. She looks towards him and questions why is he staring at her like that. He tells her, if she's that nervous, how about they hold hands? He questions, what does she think? He extends his hand as she asks him why the sudden kindness. He tells her she is trembling like a leaf and it feels like she might collapse any moment. She panics as she tells him it is still too early for them to hold hands. He questions even though they are engaged. She responds they are only engaged. He frowns. As he mentions, it sounds too complicated. She tells him to wait a moment and she needs to prepare her heart. He grabs her hand as he tells her they cannot keep the guests waiting. She ponders, holding hands like this. People begin to talk about them. As one mentions, it seems the Lord has taken a liking to the young lady. They continue to say that they seem to get along well. He looks towards her as he mentions, looks like her tension has eased. He tells her he will go chat with other nobles for a while. She tells him that he does not have to stare at her like that and just go on ahead. After a while, someone calls out to Lubiria and mentions it has been a while. The woman continues that she cannot believe the young lady is already hosting an engagement ceremony. She congratulates her. She wonders, who is that? Is that the person Lubiria would know? The woman questions, did not they meet when she was younger? She introduces herself as Caitlin. She remembers her as she saw her in Lubiria's past memories. She was the one who went through multiple engagements and marriages, also the one who squeezed out alimony from many men. Even approached Duke Karshan, Lubiria's father. She got caught for hurting young Lubiria and was driven away. But now she is acting like she was close with her. She thinks that poor child might have been a victim. But that is not her. Lubiria mentions that she thought Caitlin would not have any reason to visit this mansion again. She questions if this invitation also reached the mistress. She continues as she mentions she thought it was only sent to proper nobles. Caitlin is filled with embarrassment as she asks Lubiria to remember that she also sent an invitation to her. Lubiria continues that since when do they have such a friendly relationship that they exchange warm greetings. Caitlin responds that Lubiria does not remember, but she treated her so well when they were young. She wonders if Caitlin has no shame. She finds it irritating as she thinks she did not want to go this far. Lubiria suddenly starts to act like she is recalling a time and her head hurts. His Majesty rushes to her as she falls down on him. He grabs her as he questions if she is all right. She responds that unpleasant memories just came back. He asks her what does she mean. Caitlin panics as Lubiria tells His Majesty that when she was young, Lady Caitlin slapped her cheek. Caitlin suddenly kneels as she tells His Majesty it was all her fault. She just wanted to greet the lady whom she rarely sees due to her frail health. His Majesty tells Caitlin as she can see his lady is frail, so it would be better for her to step back. Lubiria ponders it serves her right. His Majesty whispers to her that she refused to hold hands, so is this acceptable? Lubiria realizes she has been putting her hand on his body as she panics. She starts to blush as she wonders if she leaned there and finds it so absurd. A man approaches as he questions if her lady is all right. He apologizes as His Majesty responds she momentarily lost focus during their conversation. He is Count Valiant. He mentions that the lady's safety is the priority. His Majesty tells him that they should finish the conversation they were having earlier. She ponders his name as it seems someone familiar. Later, she is feeling so hungry as she wonders why she should start on the day of the engagement ceremony. She starts to eat as she ponders it is bothering her. In the original novel, she thinks Caesar regretted something because of that Count Valiant. She wonders, was it around the time he returned from the East? She curses her memory as she questions why does it fail her at crucial moments, like a broken film reel. She decides to eat first and think about it. Suddenly there are red flames surrounding her as she wonders is it fire? Her heart feels like it is going to explode. She falls to the ground as His Majesty rushes towards her. She ponders this cannot be as she loses consciousness. Two men are conversing as one question why is the money so little this month? He questions could it be that he is really doing charity work or something? Nyadel responds it is not that. This month they received fever sponsorships. The man tells him he has so many excuses. It is Count Valiant. He asks the other person, is it so hard for him to bring in sponsorship money every month? He calls him an idiot. He continues that the person should not forget that he gave him the position of the orphanage director when he was on the verge of starving. The other person apologizes as he mentions he will make sure this does not happen again. Count Valiant calls him a useless fool. He thinks in the future he will be moving up a bit more, so it might be better to cut the financial ties with the orphanages before any problem arise. He thinks that later he could bring the evidence that Nyadel embezzled sponsorship funds and use it for blackmail. He thinks if everything goes up in flames, there will not be any evidence left related to him. He thinks there is no reason to delay and he will execute it tomorrow. Lubiria suddenly opens her eyes. She finds Merlita next to her sobbing as she questions if her lady has finally woken up. Lubiria questions, why is she in bed? What about the engagement party? Merlita responds, it has already been a while since it ended. She continues that her lady collapsed so there was no reason to continue the party. She also mentions that His Majesty was here until just now and he was quite worried after seeing that her lady had lost consciousness all of a sudden. If only her lady had woken up a little earlier, she could have met him. Lubiria responds she is not worried about that. Merlita questions if she's feeling a bit embarrassed. Lubiria tells Merlita that she is hungry and if she can bring something to eat. Merlita tells her that she will bring it right back, so she should rest a bit. Lubiria's mood suddenly becomes worried as she wonders, why did she forget something so important? How could she forget Valiant's series of arson incidents? In the original novel, Caesar went on the East expedition, and the incidents occurred while the city's defenses were weakened. If it is left as it is, the orphanages in various regions of Skadi would burn down one by one, and many children will also lose their lives. That will only happen because of Count Valiant, who is blinded by money and power. She ponders this is driving her crazy and meeting him on the day he should have left for the expedition and getting engaged right when he should have been conquering the East. She thinks originally with this incident, the protagonist was supposed to comfort the distraught Caesar, and they were supposed to grow closer as a result. Lancelot is out guarding her room as His Majesty had ordered him to stand by so he could guard her lady. As he suddenly hears a loud bang, he rushes into the room as he asks her if she is okay and if there are intruders. She sits still as she tells him it is nothing. She wonders if she has ended up breaking the table. She glances at him as she ponders that His Majesty had guards placed because he was worried. She finds it surprisingly meticulous. Lubiria asks Merlita to bring the food to her and she'll eat it here. Merlita questions would not it be nice if she serves it. Lubiria responds that she appreciates the thought. She tells them that she wishes for some quiet time and then she be alone for a bit. They both are confused as Lancelot tells her he understands. Merlita tells Lubiria to call her if she needs anything. She ponders that she decided to not change the story, but knowing that innocent children are dying, so she cannot just stand by and watch. She decides to first go to the orphanage and do what she can. She asks the god to have mercy on her and let her live longer this time. She has herself covered up as she looks at those flames. The people nearby questions what are they supposed to do about the children that are trapped inside. She ponders the fire has already spread significantly, and it seems there are many children inside. They question if Count Valiant is all right. The people tell him that his efforts for the children have made a significant impact. They also tell him to go into the mansion and take a rest as he has been through a lot today. He coughs as he asks the people how could he just leave the children like this alone without anyone. She hides behind a wall as she curses him from there. She knows he is quite the actor since he is the reason of this very fire. She is aware that he was the one who was behind all the fire. She decides that she should catch him, but wonders how he was caught up in the original world. She tries to remember the novel, but she can only think about Caesar and Armiria's romance. He tells the people that he will leave it to the experts to help the children. She ponders now it seems like he is really going to go back. She decides to follow and chase after him. As he begins to walk, he notices her footsteps. He suddenly stops as she wonders why did he stop all of a sudden. She also stops but he begins to run fastly as she also chases after him, trying to run as fast as she can to catch up to him but wonders why is he running suddenly. She realizes that she expected this. Lubiria's running speed is too slow, even though she is strong. Merlita even told her one day that she will regret staying home like this someday. She wonders if only she had listened to what Merlita said and did her best to work out. She questions, did she lose him halfway? As he is nowhere to be seen, she curses him before a man calls out to her from her behind. This causes her to be anxious as she trembles. It is Count Valiant. He approaches her from behind as he asks her why she is chasing him. She is scared her identity might be revealed as she turns around before he jumps onto her and pushes her across the wall. She shouts at him to get off. He questions if she's hurt. It seems that he is not yet aware of her identity as he tells her. If she tells him who she is, he will let her go. He again asks her who the hell is she. She ponders. She could probably break free with a little effort, but she needs to gather evidence that this guy is the arsonist first. He asks her why did she run away when she saw him. He calls out to her questions. She must have came after him after doing something. She panics and she tells him she does not know anything. She realizes she already slipped up and made a mistake. He tells her that he does not know how she found out, but she came all the way to this dreary place to threaten him. He takes out something from his pocket as he tells her. After seeing him, he hopes he lives up to her expectations. He takes out a dagger as she wonders that could not possibly be a real knife, right? He tells her that he will send her to the afterlife along with those burning children. She falls on the ground as he questions if she is scared. He tells her that she should just blame her bad luck. She tells him sorry, but that bad luck is all his. He questions what kind of nonsense is she speaking. She tells him that God sent her to get him. His Majesty also approaches them. She hits Count Valiant's face all of a sudden. His Majesty mentions he has not seen a single person here even though she is wearing a mask and covering herself well. He realizes it is the princess as he calls out to her. She wonders what is Caesar doing here at this place at this time.